And Campania, one of my favorite regions. And Campania, when it comes to wine, it's really complicated because, like everywhere in Italy, but in some areas even more than others, I would say, there is a wine that is famous for its name, but then when you go into understand what's behind it, you see that there is a lot of fake stuff. I always give the example of Prosecco. No, everyone knows Prosecco, but then if you talk about Prosecco di Valdo Biadene is a little beautiful town on this incredible sequence of hills and vineyards. Only like 0.5% of the Prosecco is produced in Valdobbiadene. 99.8 probably is in the valley, and it's total industrial and has nothing to do with the place where it's coming from. We're talking about 500 million bottles. When it comes to Campania, might have similar situation, not as vast when we talk, for example, about Fiano d'Avellino or Greco di Tufo, for example. And then there is another grape variety that is considered kind of the brother of Nebbiolo, that is Aglianico. And Aglianico, it is a grape variety really, really not easy to deal with because it's got really strong tannins. So usually it's a wine that is always too early to drink or too late to drink because you're waiting it and waiting and waiting it, and maybe sometimes you pass the moment when there's the right moment to drink it. It has been organized and mainly promoted in the world by a winery called Mastro Berardino. Mastro Berardino was one of the first big importers of Italian wines in U.S., even before the Tuscan trend and surely before the Barolo time, which is much later. I'm talking about internationally speaking. And but after that there was a common, as like any other places in Italy, there used to be every vineyard, every piece of land that used to produce a bit of wine for the family consumption. And Aglianico is probably grape variety that has been lost in time. In Aglianico means probably Hellenicus, so from Greece. So someone says that that grape variety was there even before the Romans, so when southern Italy was a Greek colony. And there are big discussion from by archaeologists. So, but in this specific case, we're talking about El Agnanico that come from the Vesuvio, which is an area which is not famous for Aglianico. It's mainly famous for grape varieties like Pedirosso or Catalanesca, and Lacrima Christi is one of the wine that is famous of that area. This is a beautiful, beautiful winery called Sorrentino, and they are facing the Vulcano, the Vesuvio. We are like few meters away from Pompeii and Ercolano. Bosco Trecase is the village that is not so far, so you would probably find all the soil is like volcanic sand, which is a soil that is incredibly fertile, but on the same time doesn't give a lot in terms of like the support that it gives to the vineyard. You need to deal with the grape variety that don't have they don't have a strong aromatic side, because it's the soil that speaks for the wine, similar as the Etna in Sicily. And what is actually incredible about this Don Paolo from Aglianico, that is actually softer than most of the wine that you usually find in Irpinia, because that area and the fact that it's been aged for more than 7 years, because this is a 2016, so it's technically a reserve, helps at the time to soften a bit the wine, keeping this beautiful fruit forward flavor. It's a wine that stays a lot of tertial aromas. This one here, we go in northern part of Campania, so this is center part of Campania. We are like 10 miles from Naples. This is more near to Caserta, so I would say that is going closer to Rome. And we're talking about an area that is like in the middle end, like not so far from Taburno. This is a couple that started to produce some Falanghina there, and they turned it to be organic 10, 15 years ago. And it's a medium, big winery. They started to reduce quantity, and recently entered in the AAA, which is a selection of artisan winemakers. And he's a really nice guy, and he's doing a great job with his wife. And in this specific case, we're talking about the two grape varieties that are called the Pallagrello and the Pedirosso. Especially the Pallagrello is a grape variety that was almost extinguished at the end of the 19th century. We need to thank people like Alois and Giovanni Ascione, who was making a wine like an Annibale Copet that is not produced anymore. Pallagrello probably was even more common than Aglianico in the 18th century and 19th century, and then slightly disappeared, like it happened with a lot of local grape varieties in Italy. So we like also to save those winemakers. And this is slightly softer than Aglianico, and it's one that has got a nice fruit with a nice spicy finish too. Maybe slightly simpler than Aglianico too, so it's nice to compare. If you are having both of them, start with this and finish with that. This is my great philosopher. In this case, we're talking about Irpinia, so in the southern part of Campania, so center part, northern part, and southern part of Campania. Fiano d'Avellino is a grape variety that one of the most interesting white grape variety of Italy, of central Italy. Is one of the few white grape varieties with Verdic and Friulano that can be aged sometimes even 15, 20 years. In this specific case, we're talking about a wine that have a bit of a skin contact. You cannot see a lot of the color, but when you open it, you will find a kind of an orange flavor. This is more on the natural side type of wine, orange, one of those wines that fulfill your palate with a bit of a tannins, a nice crispy finish with this beautiful honey flavor that is typical of the Fiano di Avellino. And Nicola Nardone is often present in our video because he is such a weaver. He's passionate about his terroir, and he helps you to understand the region because he brings you. We went to visit a sculptor, an artist, and there was an actor that was making wine, and then he actually made us get in touch with the Trattoria di Pietro, Anita. She is a chef that has this beautiful little restaurant in the middle of nowhere, and they came to New York and for the very first time of their life, and it was interesting to connect Venticano and Grotta Minarda. There are two villages that has maybe 500 inhabitants with the biggest city of the Western world. And so these two worlds that were connecting to each other, and we started to dance tarantella all night drinking this beautiful Fiano. It gave sense to my job and the experience of the fact that we are connecting different type of cultures and regions.